The wacky world of MultimediaJay.
Yeah, now that's what I call recycling. Well, for those who are wondering what I mean when I say old clunky, I'm of course referring to this little gas furnace that heats this place, and is also the source of one of the problems with the heat here, because the heat comes out the top and a little bit comes out the front, but that means that all the heat coming out is a couple of feet off the ground, doesn't get a chance to go down, closer to the bottom, so it can often be significantly colder down by where your feet are than where the heat actually goes. But I call it old clunky because it clunks a lot when it fires up and shuts off because, well, metal expands and sometimes that makes some noise. So you may have heard this in the background as you've been listening to some of these videos, and this is what you heard. You'll always hear at least that bang, and there might be some tap, 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 tap as it starts up. Well, this time it seems to be okay. This of course would be why these things are usually in the basement of most houses. But then again, this is a really small house. Can you imagine what it would be like if we had one of these down in the cellar and it was sending stuff to all the other rooms? So, it might actually be superfluous with how small this house is. A little bit of tapping here and there. Other than that one big clunk. It's behaving itself. Sometimes when it's first starting up, it's like tap, 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 tap. I can hear a little of it. Alright, let's turn it off. This is where you get more tap, tap, tap noise as it cools down. A little of it. There it goes. And it slowly slows down until all you hear is the noise from the pilot light. Now the big thing with this device is that you never want this thing to be completely silent. If it is, the pilot light's out and you have no heat and you gotta mess with the gas to get it relit. And you actually have to wait for it to run for a minute to heat up properly so it keeps going. So maybe one of these days, if I have this pilot light problem again, I had one pilot light problem grand total that killed the heat in the place for most of the day. Fortunately, it wasn't that cold out that day. But I did have to fix the pilot light already once in this thing. So, anyways, I'd like to actually have some heat because the cold snap's over, but it's still 20 out. So let's put this at about 60% will do. And of course I've got the stand-up fan there to blow it more towards this way, just to get the air circulating. Once I have the air circulating, then the heat goes quite a bit, oops, watch the drying rack. Then the heat goes quite a bit further. So just blow not only the heat coming out of this more towards get it circulating, but also the heat radiating off the exhaust pipe. I keep the drying racks right next to this thermostat so there can be an obstacle, because otherwise it's very easy to do this. You don't want to do that. I don't want to break the control panel off of this thing. Stuff like that. So I usually will have something there so you basically can't walk into it by accident. Either way, that's old clunky. As far as the Great Sift is concerned, everything is in one place, not counting the air conditioner in the toolbox, of course. But I've got everything ready to go for when I want to sift through everything, and I kept the box from the Burlston chair. Because of its size and its shape, I think what I want to do is put all the Great Sift stuff that is unsifted inside the Burlston box, and then gradually make my way down to the bottom and put everything into totes. These totes should all be emptied out and basically gone through. What do I want to keep? I also want to organize things with zip bags, more on that later. I want to organize these things in bags rather than boxes, so I can just look for the right zip bag, because a lot of this stuff is pretty stackable, like the wires and things like that. But it should be interesting whenever I finally decide to do something with this, but I do need more space in here, and I gotta get rid of the old chair and stuff like that. I gotta call the DPW and ask them how exactly you're supposed to recycle an old office chair like that. But yeah, I also know though that that big toad over there is about 50% clothes from the old place that the folks didn't take with them. I'm gonna run that by my dad one last time. Does he want, some of my old shirts and stuff? I mean, I wore them only a little bit, but then I, started wearing collared polo shirts, as I very often do, and collared Hawaiian shirts. So I've got some older shirts in there. They're still in decent condition. They'll probably go to a clothes donation, something or another, if he's not interested in them. But those somehow slid under everybody's noses during the move. So I know that that giant tote out there is half clothes. So I have basically these two totes to sift through. I'll put it all in that box so you can have it all in one place. That, of course, is when I figure out what I'm doing with the monitor over there. I have a replacement part kit that's on order, but with replacement capacitors. Unfortunately, there's no mail on President's Day, so whatever. In the meantime, achievement unlocked. This is the first piece of hardware that I wanted to pick up to go with my more urbanish lifestyle. The Vocool VK205 scooter, although it's an RX205, so that Vocool thing on Amazon is basically just a rebrand, I guess. I understand the German name for this. It's made by a German company. I understand that the overseas name for this is the Huron or something like that. And it's I'd have to look it up. But there's another company. Basically, it's a 205. It's this is basically an adult Razor-style scooter, and it folds up and stuff like that. So, grabbed the bike helmet, picked one of these up. We'll start small. I eventually want to maybe either get a bike or a fat bike to ride around for times when I don't want to put wear and tear on the car. But for now, we got to start somewhere. This is basically an adult commuter scooter that folds up, and it's got that little backpack strap, so you can actually wear it when you're not riding it. So basically, just take it where you go. You don't have to worry about bike locks and locking it somewhere or something like that, because you just wear it when you're not riding it. I have some ideas for this thing. It's the Razor scooter equivalent of this would be the A5 Lux, which is the adult version of the scooter, but you have to buy those online. For whatever reason, these are not popular outside of cities, because apparently adults, despite our obesity epidemic in this country, don't want to get exercise by scootering around town if they can. It's all about bikes and stuff like that. I saw Blunty's video on adult commuter scooters and how, oh, you look like you're riding a kid's toy. Well, practicality, I mean, it's certainly a lot more convenient than a bike, although I am concerned about the urethane wheels and whether or not they have any kind of traction whatsoever in less than ideal conditions. So maybe it might be better to have a bike for some things. But one of the reasons I came out to this area is to basically not have to always put wear and tear on the car every single time. Well, Tuxedo's continuing to just hum along as usual, and it's actually nice and quiet, largely because the only fan left in it is the exhaust fan in the back. Everything else has been removed. I don't have any intakes, no side fans. There's almost no point in even having this fan controller in here anymore. It's basically holding over until Monolith is built. One of the reasons why I want to put this fan controller in the Monolith, despite the odds are that the case will come with a fan controller, is so I can turn off the front, turn up the front, things like that, instead of having switches to turn the fans all at once. Because in the back, acoustically, I mean, the exhaust fans can go as loud as they want. Even though I've only got this at like 50%, it doesn't really change that much if I crank it up all the way. This is one of the areas in which the problems with this place's heating has played to my advantage. There is a significant temperature difference between a couple of feet off the floor and the floor because of what's going on with Old Clunky. So what that does is basically I can just use that to my advantage, just exhaust the air properly. And usually I don't like running computers on the floor like this, but I might put it on a little something to get it off the floor and not be as much of a dust sucker. But the cooler temperatures further down have definitely played to my advantage, because this is making this kind of noise while running Unigine Valley. Unigine Valley in Ultra Mode. 1080p, processor's not breaking 25 degrees. The video card's pretty cooked though. But that's because there isn't really much in terms of venting the video card. But the processor, on the other hand, when it's aftermarket cooler and stuff like that, it's definitely a long ways away from the 30s and 40s. I used to not be able to get this processor out of the 40s, and it would push the 50-degree danger mark because the maximum temperature on the processor is 62, so it would cross the 50-degree warning mark with certain games when it was clogged up with dust. But it's not clearing 25 degrees now. Thanks, aftermarket cooling. I would consider overclocking, but I don't really need to overclock this thing too much. Plus, if I start playing with the overclock, it turns off the temperature sensor on the processor, so I can't actually monitor the temperature anymore. If I unlock the CPU, it actually disables the onboard thermal monitor. No idea why. It'd be nice to try overclocking this thing a bit, but unfortunately I gotta just keep it with factory overclock options. So the turbo boost thing for higher single-core performance, or whatever it's called. The motherboard has a setting for it. Video card, yeah, close to 70 degrees. The video card would benefit more from switching over to a fractal design case that had actual front fans, because most of the fins on the heat sinks on these things, traditionally, they're made for cases with front fans, and the closest thing these obsolete cases have to front fans is 80mm, yuck! So, eventually Tuxedo will be a secondary system. So we're here primarily to talk about the monolith dilemma, even though I talked about other stuff. Here's the thing with Tuxedo. Here's what's in stone for Tuxedo. Because of the licensing with Windows 10, I want Tuxedo to eventually be my secondary system. So I'm going to have Monolith, Tuxedo, Silver Bullet. Monolith will be primary, Tuxedo will be secondary, Silver Bullet will be portable for going over folks' houses and playing Steam games or something like that. Or any time when I'd want to have, set up a computer somewhere, take a computer with me, because of the lightness of the aluminum case. But I do intend on keeping the Silver Bullet around. The question is, what to put in it? I also have my 2005 system, which I haven't fired it up in a while, but if it's still in working order, that is a possible Linux box or something that I could hook up inside the Delosaurus if I could find a way to make everything fit. Basically, a lot of the parts will come out of this thing, but not the main parts. The motherboard's going to stay in here. I'm probably eventually going to have the Blu-ray drive in here. And basically, I'm done with front panel soundboards because this front panel just doesn't work. I'm not going to be using it anymore. It's not working right now, and it hasn't worked in quite some time. So, that's done. That's coming out. Fan controller will go to Monolith. The card reader is broken. The pin that determines whether or not an SD card is read-only or not broke on this thing. So I don't know whether I want to replace this with another card reader or go back to externals and put something else in this slot. I think that front panel audio or something like that would work for this if I could have like a headphone jack in the front and listen to things through analog. Except analog front jacks are often very noisy, so I don't know if I'd want to maybe try a USB sound processor or something like that. Either way, I gotta figure out what to do about this. Eventually, I think what I'm going to have is a lot of optical drives in this. Leftover optical drives from other systems will find their way into this one, so if I ever want to redigitize my CD collection, for example, I'll have a system with 4 drives, 3 drives, 4 drives, something like that can take a bunch of discs at once and then just spit them out one at a time as they finish. That's a different discussion altogether, though. Right now, I just gotta make it to when I build Monolith. But that's what Tuxedo is at right now. Still running pretty nicely, although I do want to get perhaps a stand for it in case by wild chance there's ever like a liquid spill or something, or we get liquid leaking in here like that ice earlier. Don't really want this potentially leaking into the back of the computer. However, being close to the floor is playing into quite well, although it is unfortunately a dust sucker because there is something being sucked in through those fins in the front. It's not active intake on that stuff, but unfortunately it's not active air intake there, but this works somewhat. I just want to get a CPU stand for this thing to put it on to get it off the floor. Because Monolith is going to be a dust sucker case, and I don't want to have to be pulling out the air filter every other week, or the dust filter on the bottom every other week to clean the dust out of the darn thing. The Silver Bullet, still dead as a doornail. There, see? Wait, what the? Wait, what the? This thing was dead 2 months ago. You can't be serious. So you mean to tell me that sitting on the cold floor of this place... Postcode? No, this can't be. So you mean to tell me that sitting on the cold floor of this place for a couple of weeks got this thing to... maybe it was problems with the... Did it beep? Did this thing post? We hit reset on something. It's doing something. Let's try that again. So is it a problem with the power switch on the case? I mean, this is an early 2000s case. I wouldn't be surprised. Push it again? No. Wait, what was that click? I heard it. Nope. Started. That spins. That spins. I think we have a project. Because this thing's getting power again. Interesting. That's a good sign. Now I'm glad I bought this light-up mouse. We're going to be stuck using the tube monitor, but that's proof that we have power going through the motherboard. Nothing's hooked up except the one hard drive that was left in this thing. What was on it? It still has its drives and everything. Post. Welcome back to Flicker Vision, everybody, as this monitor tries to warm up. Howdy, folks. Should wear the sunglasses for this sort of thing. People are sick of... What was on this thing? The Windows 10 preview? Yeah, and it's running an automatic disk repair on this thing. A component of the operating system has expired. You don't say! Yeah, this had the Windows 10 technical preview on it. Huh. We'll see if this thing keeps working. And if it does, then get a Windows 10. Actually, I've been planning to get a Windows license at some point for the retail version of Windows 10. Oh, Flicker Vision! Okay, it's enough of that. I was planning on getting a Windows 10 license from Monolith, but a retail license, because retail licenses can be transferred. You basically have to, take it off of one piece of hardware, put it on the other. You pay a little more, but one of the shortcomings of OEM licensing is that it's nice. One of the shortcomings of OEM licensing is that it lives and dies on whatever you install it on, and this thing's a Core 2 Duo. Wow. This is like the computer version of something working, of a hard drive working again because you put it in the freezer. Weird. This thing sat on the floor for a couple of weeks. Maybe it's a problem with the power. Maybe there's a power button issue with this thing, and I should consider replacing. Wow. Funny how things turn out. No, there's no power to the optical drives. Interesting. We're in. The BIOS date somehow got set to January of 2033. So of course the Windows 10 preview expired, and this thing's not hooked up to the internet, so it has no way of knowing that it's... Well, let's see what was on it at the very least. How were things last summer? I set it back to January 2015, so I imagine at the very least I'll get some kind of conflict with the system clock and things like that. But yeah, 2033 bug. And of course it's taking a while to load because it has a mechanical drive. Well, here's a nice little blast from the past to the Windows 10 technical preview. I wonder if this counts as the Windows 10 experiment. What was the last Windows 10 experiment? Well, I guess this can go in the Windows 10 experiment, even though the Windows 10 experiment is over and the retail version of Windows 10 is out. Interesting. I wonder... we'll have to see what happens before we blank this thing. I think what I want to do with this thing is hook everything back up, now that I know that it works again for whatever reason. Hook everything back up, and whenever this preview version of Windows 10 expires, probably just put Linux on it. Try Linux gaming or something. This is a dual core, and I don't want to spend any more money on this thing. It's got 4 gigs of RAM though, so it can at least do 64-bit Windows. Oh yeah. Monster Hunter benchmark and everything, Komodo firewall and my old background from last year. Evaluation copy. Ay. Oh, look at all this. Look at this old UI from before Windows 10 launched. Interesting. Depending on how I hold the camera, the flicker vision is more or less, well, I've never put a CRT monitor to this thing before, so it's probably running at 60 Hz anyways. Ah, it's enough of the flicker vision. Windows 10 Pro Insider Preview. Ha! Interesting. Everything's still here. Well, that's cool. Maybe I can go forward, I can move forward with my hard drive swap, because I did want to swap some hard drives to this thing. I'm also tossing around the idea of taking the SSD out of the netbook, because that thing's going to run like crap no matter what. It's basically a waste of an SSD. So, since it's the oldest SSD that I have, maybe I could put it in this thing. So, yeah, the netbook is garbage. It doesn't deserve its SSD. I just gotta find a mechanical drive to put into it. Well, let's just give a quick update on the rest of the computers while we're at it. Hey, look, Steam! So the crap top never received its free Windows 10 upgrade, and the display is garbage on it, so the most I could do is make this maybe into a Linux box, or I could upgrade to Windows 10, make it work that way, but it needs to be used like a desktop in order to be functional with its D-sub port. It has to be used as a desktop because the display's dying on it. It has the white screen of death that the compacts often have. Speaking of compacts, that subcompact notebook from the 90s is something I dredged out of my old place. That's another story entirely. We'll eventually get to covering that. This thing is going to be a gimmick system where I put something inside of it and make it look like an old system even when it's not. That's an HP Celeron from the late 90s Pavilion retail model. It predates the one that I originally had back in 2000. Delosaurus is also a project system waiting to happen. My 2005 system is basically a scrap thing. I want to see if I can put, now that I know the silver bullet's going to work again, I want to see if my 2005 system will fit inside the Delosaurus. That would be interesting. The Delosaurus doesn't have the horsepower to really do anything on its own anymore, so the best we can do with this is gut it and make it into a joke system where it looks old but it isn't. So, interesting. Well, looks like this weekend isn't going to end, this long weekend I should say, isn't going to end on a down note, even though we're getting some snow, then wintry mix crap, and I gotta decide, do I want to use the scooter tomorrow after taking a cab into work, or do I want to... Right. The silver bullet, up and running again for whatever reason. Maybe something was loose, I don't know. I even heard that the motherboard had bent, but it's been running for a while now, and if the motherboard was bent and something popped loose, then... computers, go figure. Maybe it is something with the case, though, because, I mean, who knows? I mean, 10 years old, how does he push it? Oh, it's doing something. Oh, it's shutting down. Handy, that. Funny how that works. Weird. Right. Till next time, this is MultimediaJay, signing off. Thanks for stopping by. Almost perfect timing.